Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. The Hawks are in New York for game one of their series against the Knicks. I'm here with Tyler Jones, Glen Willis, and Brad Rowland. Um, what did you think about this one, Glenn?
I think the second quarter was their best offensive quarter. They were actually getting middle and getting to the rim. I thought they drove it into Mitchell Robinson like unnecessarily a few 3, 4 times probably, but those hurt. But in the second half, like we talked about this on the preview last week, that the Knicks will force you into ISO basketball, and that is not how the Hawks want to play offense. They did not move the ball enough. They had a hard time getting separation from their defender using screen or DHO. And CJ's good at that stuff, but it's still not what Quinn wants them to do offensively. In the whole second half, it was, I don't know, it felt like 70% ISO possessions. You get down to 12 to 14 feet, get the little step back, and those sorts of things. And then in the fourth quarter, they just didn't make shots. They just flat out just didn't make shots in the fourth quarter. And they made a respectable push at the end, got it down to 8 with some time left. But basically had to hold them to 0 the rest of the way to give yourself any chance to win the game there. And so there's some things to learn from that. Like, how do they not get stuck in ISO ball for the whole third and fourth quarter? It feels like they gotta figure that out, because if that happens in game two, it's gonna be a short series. They have to fix that.
Tyler, with that 11-0 run at the end, it felt like they did some things differently defensively. How did it compare to what they did before, and does it give them anything to look at going forward?
Well, they did what you suggested, which is put Dyson on Cat, and like I think the biggest thing, it allowed them to generate a little bit more turnovers, but overall defense was good the entire game. I do think the rebounding got better. That's something I didn't foresee with Dyson on Cat. I think either David Lee brought that point up on Twitter. He said the rebounding got a lot easier with Dyson just guarding Cat, and like because it for whatever, like it just based on how the Knicks play defense, it just made things a lot simpler for them in terms of the boards, and allowed them to get in transition better, get easier looks in transition, more importantly, because they're getting clean rebounds. They're basically uncontested, defensive rebounds instead of when a Congo was guarding Cat. So like overall, I do think like that's something Quinn probably didn't want to go to first. Like he like to me, it felt like Quinn didn't want to go to that chess piece first of not having a center on Cat, but like going forward, that is what they're going to do. Because like defensive rebounding was a slight problem. I don't think it was a big deal overall, but like it might have been better if Dyson guarded Cat a little bit sooner, perhaps. But again, defense wasn't really the issue. Glenn is correct. I think CJ got a little too bogged down. Like it came down to, if CJ made those shots, I think the Hawks are either it's a closer game or they win the game overall. But because he missed, he get like basically it's make or miss on CJ shots. And if he's gonna miss, that's the game. Like, and so you give yourself no margin for error when you're going pure ISO mode. He had good advantages. Like these are shots you expect CJ to make. He just missed them. Now, I'm not talking about the threes that he missed back to back. Like those are good shots overall, but like the ones in particular where he's isoing against like a weaker defender and he's taking a fade away and he just misses. Like you expect him to make those with some regularity, but the problem is when you play like that, you expose your team to like transition opportunities on defense. And that like transition defense kind of killed the Hawks the entire game. Like if we're talking about one weakness defensively, it was transition defense.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of a product of bad offense.
Yeah.
It's hard to separate those two. Welcome, Brad.
Hello.
Uh, I don't know if this is the question you want, but there are some things that Jalen Johnson can do to make life easier for the Hawks. What can the Hawks do to make life easier for Jalen Johnson? Because it just seems like he's not getting to contribute. When he gets in the lane, Cat's down there with him. When he's on defense, like it seems like they've got him in a position to help, but he's not really doing it. Like, is there something that they can do with him, whether it's make him guard Cat, do get him in two-man actions with Dyson? Like what can they do to make life easier for Jalen? Because it just seems like he has been taken out of the series, at least for game one, and there's no clear plan maybe to fix that.
I mean, on defense, I think it's the play better adjustment for Jalen, honestly. I'm not, I mean, that sounds like I'm being
Yeah.
funny, and I'm really not. I thought he was
No.
he was probably the guy who drove me the craziest defensively in the entire game for the Hawks. And I agree with the points overall, by the way. The defense was not the problem in this game. I mean, it wasn't perfect by any means, and they didn't get back. That's 100% true. But if there was a guy who I found myself consistently shaking my head about defensively, it really was Jalen. Just like, not executing on the back line, not, being a half step slow. And this is stuff that Jalen is susceptible to. And we've all seen that. We've all watched him closely. He has these mental lapses where he's not engaged, but I don't know if he's playing 39 minutes. Maybe he just didn't have the playoff intensity that you need to have, but he just wasn't up to par defensively, and it's concerning. And I don't know if it's anything that they're doing schematically. He's in a spot where he should be able to make the play. You know what I mean? It's like he's a quarter step too slow on an action, or he's not aggressive enough. It's not like he's schematically in the wrong place where he can't make it easier on himself. Offensively, there's more of that, I would say. Um, I think he has to play better on offense and on offense too. But there are times where he's driving into some tough situations. Um, a game where there wasn't a lot being called is not favorable to Jalen in this matchup as an offensive player, I don't think, because he's already not probably as good as he needs to be drawing fouls. And his tendency is to kind of lean and float and fade. And if you're not getting any of those, like, not even bailout, but like semi bailout calls, you're not going to get any of those in the series. That's tough. But he ends up this game with 23 points on 21 shooting possessions, and that includes like a late flurry when the game was like kind of over. He was not particularly efficient either. So I didn't really answer your question, but I think it really is the play better adjustment much more than like the Hawks not doing something to help Jalen, if that makes sense.
To me, like on the offensive side, both he and Kaminga need to play with more physicality. Like, and they need to play with more physicality on the low block early in the shot clock. They got to get down. Like, if they don't have the ball, get down to the block, play with it. It doesn't matter if it's OG guarding you or who, like, but especially if OG isn't guarding you. He has to get down to a spot on the floor, play with physicality, force the defense to adjust. So now the Hawks on offense aren't having to do this ISO ball, like, or they're having a harder time getting to their sets. To me, like overall, like him in particular, he's just got to play harder. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, I thought he played with regular season intensity on both ends for the majority of the game. The play that might have pissed me off the most was when there was a defensive breakdown. Cat is dribbling, but Jalen is in perfect position to either take the charge or block the shot. Or he should have been, but he reacted late for some reason. And it's like, it's Karl Anthony Towns. Like, he's not a good passer. He's going to turn the ball over if you challenge him. Like, he's not this elite athlete either, but you got to be willing to step up to the plate. Like, they need, like, set the tone. You are the best player on the team. Like, this is your team. This is like no shade to anybody else. This is Jalen's team. This team is built around him. He's got to play better, and he can play better if he plays harder. Like, it's just too many possessions on both ends where it's like he's just floating instead of like being a physical presence on the floor. It particularly again when OG's not guarding, but he should be challenging OG as well. Force OG to guard you. Like, I just thought I thought a lot of it was, oh, OG's on me. All right, I'm gonna be a little passive here. It's just like, okay, without the ball, that's with the ball, I understand that. But without the ball, you are the bigger basketball player. Like, let's dig into him. Let's force some action. Maybe we get a foul call. Maybe we see something that the Knicks don't want you doing physically. Like, because a lot of it was Josh Hart on him too. It's like, come on, man. Like, it's the playoffs. Like, force the issue. But it doesn't necessarily have to be with him with the ball in his hands. Like, that would help the Hawks offense get away from ice when they get bogged down a little bit in ISO positions.
I like that idea. I'm not sure if I love it going at Anunoby as much, but there are opportunities when it's not Anunoby, right? Like
But Kevin, it's more of a like a you got to set a tone. Like, hey, we're playing with physicality. Like that is the weakness of this team.
I agree with you. It's just that when they go to Robinson instead of Cat, then they are unloading all of their weak wings, and that's where you really could do some more of that. When it's Shamit in the game and those types, then there's no way that they're going to be able to guard the post on Johnson Okongwu line. I'm sorry, Johnson Kaminga lineups because one of them should be able to get that kind of post up opportunity over somebody that they should have an advantage on.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, it's just more of a like a mental thing with me, where it's like you gotta force OG to feel you as a presence. Like you gotta force
Okay.
the Knicks to feel you. If they're gonna guard you with OG, force the issue off the ball. Like do some hand holding, do some like Draymond Green stuff. Do something. Don't just float out there when you don't have the ball in your hands. Because it just felt like Jalen, like to me, it just felt like Jalen was not a presence tonight, like just on either in the floor.
Yeah.
Like he had no physical presence, and he's a physical player first, more than anything else. And he has to play with physicality. I understand that OG is a difficult matchup for him overall, but when he's at his best is when he plays like he's the bigger player, and he should have that advantage for the majority of the time he's out there on the floor. Like there are ways to get the matchup that you want, and then play with physicality. That's how you get the free throws. That's how you get the Knicks guarding the Hawks differently, forcing and then making life easier for the Hawks perimeter plays because it was tough for Nikhil and CJ overall. Like the Knicks have good defenders and it's a tough matchup for them in particular. But if the Knicks have a weak point, it is that they're not necessarily deep in their forward room. So force the issue a little bit more here.
It felt very regular season-y from Jalen
Yeah,
to me, which is, I mean, that's kind of uncharacteristic for me to say. I'm not trying to ascribe. It's nothing to ascribe to his mentality. It didn't feel like he raised the intensity level, and it's hard. I mean, you're playing 40 minutes, and you probably know you're going to play 40 minutes, so you have to figure out what you have in your tank. But like, it felt very much like a regular game for Jalen the way he was playing. I don't know if that's too simple or not, but
but
Glen can yell at me.
but Brad, like the point is like if you're not going to guard Cat in particular on defense, what's the excuse not to bring it on? Like what's the
Yeah,
excuse?
you're kind of hiding out. I think either Nikias or Steve Jones said the same thing. It was like if you're not gonna, I mean, it's one thing if you're asking him to guard Cat the entire game, then you understand why you may not have energy to do both, and it's a hard thing to do to be the number one guy on offense and still bring on defense. That's for sure. But if you're not having a primary offensive assignment, that excuse kind of goes out the window to some defensive assignment, I should say. You kind of goes out the window to some degree if you're more of
But
like a passive help defender most of the game.
he also really didn't have the offensive assignment. Like it's not like he was the
No.
one primarily with the ball. Like he wasn't driving the offense.
Yeah, it was more CJ.
Like one of the guys. So if you're going to be one of the guys and you have the weakest matchup on defense where the Hawks are just like do whatever you want and we will cover for you, then give me something on the offensive end. Like play with some effort and focus here, please. When you don't have the ball in your hands, that's kind of where I'm really frustrated because like that game could have been won. The Hawks could have 100% won that game. Their defense, again, overall, I thought the defense was good enough. It just there's some execution stuff in transition they need to work on offense as well. But like I think they could have won that game. But like they're not winning. They're not going to win this series if Jalen's going to play like it's a regular season game. Like they're just not.
Glenn, I want you to sort of address. I mean, this all goes back to where Glenn started. Like you call this the one-on-one offense game. Like what's Jalen supposed to do if he's out on the perimeter and his driving lane is basically the Knicks are going to try to force a middle and Cat's waiting for him.
Well, I mean, in my mind, he shouldn't really be that worried about Cat. Cat's not some awesome rim protector, right? He's pretty undisciplined in front of the rim. Just go get your foul. Like Tyler said, just go get your foul, be physical. But I want to remind everyone, this is Jalen's first playoff game as a starter in his
Yep.
whole career, right? So he shot well from the 3-point line generally. I do want him to be more aggressive driving the basketball, especially when Cat's at the five. Um, and when they're playing like Shaman at the three and Bridges at the four, he should be able to like eat when that lineup is on the floor. Like, so that has to be the adjustment where he sees like, oh, they have a smaller lineup out. I can be physical. I can get to the rim. I can get to the free throw line.
He did kind of do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As soon
yeah.
as the hack of Mitchell worked, he started
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and once he went out, then Jalen at times did show a little bit of aggressiveness, but they need like 3x what he had today on
Yeah.
offense. They need a lot more from him, and to recognize when the Knicks are playing smaller versus when they're playing bigger. Like when Mitchell Robinson's in the game, he doesn't want to come out of the paint. He should be able to generate 3-point shots like a lot. Like you play him five out, and but yeah, Jalen will learn. I mean, this is he's the best player on the team in my mind. But like I said, this is his first playoff game as a starter and as a primary creator in his whole career. Hopefully, there's good film review between now and Monday. I think next game is Monday, I think, right?
Yeah.
And he can kind of look at where his decision making got a little off track at times, maybe not seeing the floor and seeing what the Knicks were doing. I mean, the Knicks just take space away from you like constantly. Like they load up the strong side and make it hard to rotate at the weak side. But I mean, I he needs this experience. It's so important that the Hawks got into an actual playoff series, not through the play-in. Because whether this goes 6 games or whatever number, I don't really care what number of games this goes. This team needs this experience. The Knicks are a significantly more veteran team than the Hawks are. Right? CJ is the one vet who's played in a lot of playoff games. Really, no one else has. And Yeko was on this team on the 21 run. He's the only person that's still on the team from that run. And they've been on play-in only or missed the play-in the last 3 years. So this might be bumpy. The Knicks are really good, really, really good. But I mean, the Hawks don't quit working. Like they made that 11-0 run and made it kind of interesting there at the end, and that's a characteristic of this team that I think I admire a ton. But there are definitely some learnings to take from this game and to kind of work back through your planning into get to the game two on Monday. And a lot of that is don't get stuck in iso ball. Like that was just way too much of that second half. Like I know I keep repeating that,
No, it's
but
I want to say this earlier too. It's not my podcast, so sorry. Um, there's some danger to McCollum being the guy carrying the offense in the first half. Is that
Yeah.
his tendency is already to try to be that guy, and if it's working, he's going to keep doing it. And I mean, if you look at the whole game, McCollum was efficient for the full game, but he had 22 points on his first 12 shots, and then I think he had 4 points on his next 10 shots, something like that. Um, that's what happens sometimes. I mean, he's not going to, I mean, maybe sometimes he will be like just incandescent for a whole game, but it's more likely that it might bog things down. And that's what happens, it seems like.
It's not good when the person who has the ball more than anybody else in your offense has 1 assist and 5 turnovers. Like that's just not sustainable.
No, and that's I mean, it's not usually that bad, but his tendency is to shoot first, shoot second, pass when he has to. And that's the role. I mean, honestly, that's what they've needed from him. He's been great.
Yes.
To
No,
be
they
very
need him to be a
clear,
finisher.
McCollum's been very good since he got here. But tonight was like the McCollum was the kind of the extreme McCollum experience. In the first half, he kept him afloat for a lot of it, honestly, because he was the one guy making shots. But if it stops going in, it can really bog down.
yeah,
I, I
just
will
real quick, schematically, it's interesting because like when Porzingis is on the team and ATO, they run that play where he's at the top of the key and he gets a cross screen and goes down to the mid post on the left side of the floor, and then they
Yeah.
run cross screens on the weak side. They didn't run that one time today, and Yaka's are really good at that play. Kaminga's decent at that play. Jalen's really good at that play. They could run that play, and it was a heavy ATO throughout the season, but them not using cross screens and them not making the defense work on the actually own the weak side in addition to the strong side just lets the Knicks load up on the strong side, and they're so big that they just take the space away from you. So it'll be interesting to see if we see some of those plays come back in game two or not. Sorry, Tyler.
No, I was just going to add like one thing I did like from Jalen. I mean, Jalen, he's not as bad. Like it sounds like I'm like hypercritical. Like he was still good overall, but it's just this is a different level, right? And when you're the franchise player, you're just graded on a different standard. But I did like the pull up 3 pointers that Jalen was getting to. Now, granted, it was in like up the game's kind of over mode. However, I do think that is something that the Hawks might be able to go to if Jalen's willing to up the 3 point volume here with pull-ups. If the Knicks are going to guard the Hawks like this, I do think that is something he can lean on a little bit more to generate better points per possession in on certain offensive possessions.
I was actually going to ask you a question, Tyler. I don't know how we ended with Tyler. Now I'm going to ask Tyler a question, but what did you think of the bench? Gay, Kuminga, Vincent, Riza Shea.
I thought they were fine overall. I thought Kaminga, actually both Kaminga and Reese Shea were like rushing more than they needed to. I thought they had when they had their opportunities, they were good opportunities, and they just rushed the possession. Though I felt Kaminga was a little bit better in the second half than the first half offensively. But Kaminga's defense throughout was pretty good. I thought Gabe was a kind of like a calming force, but I do like that Quinn went with Haka to get Mitchell Robinson out the game with the Mo Gay matchup. But like a lot everybody has said, it needed to be not Mo Gay committing the foul. That's the only weakness.
At least one of them. You can't let them
Yeah,
do both of them. Come on, guys.
yeah. It needs to
Logic.
be it just literally needs to be somebody else to commit the foul.
Yeah.
Full stop. So then primarily so that you're not extending Onyeka minutes because you're asking Onyeka to play a full quarter. That's a lot for me. And by the way, Onyeka was brilliant. I thought he was probably the best player on the Hawks
Yep.
tonight.
Yep.
I I would like, and just another aside, like I would like to see the Hawks use Onyeka as a movement shooter a little bit more. Like they do run some ATL for him to do that, but I think that's a strength of his. Like OG, whoever OG is not guarding between Onyeka and Jalen should be the basketball player that the Hawks are like focusing in on to get them good offensive looks overall. Like I think that's something they could simplify a little bit more here to Kevin's point. But like particularly when Onyeka is just being guarded by whoever, that is something you can lean on a little bit more, get him moving because he's a good driver, good finisher when he is driving, and a great spot up shooter, and also a pretty good movement shooter. Like Onyeka is really good. Like I wish Hawks fans uh, who don't understand how good he is would recognize this. Like he's one of the best centers in the sport, period. Like I don't know what he ranks, but it doesn't matter. He is one of the best centers in the sport. You just don't get this level of ability on both ends of the floor from a center in the NBA. Like it's just very rare to be good on offense and good on defense as a center in the ways that a Conk was good, where he's literally one of the best shooters in the sport at his position, combined with very good defensively. So like I do think the Onyeka not guarding Cat just so that we get him more involved as a helper is going to be huge for the Hawks in the next coming games. But I would like to see a little bit more focus on like keying in on those two guys over the guards. Like I understand that Nikhil, CJ, and Dyson have been great throughout the season. I do think that is if the Knicks are going to try to hide players like they're trying to hide guys, like they're trying to hide Jalen Brunson, they're sneakily trying to hide Mikal Bridges from not guarding either Onyeka or Jalen. The Hawks should try to force that mismatch in order to get away from the iso ball. So now Nikhil and CJ in particular aren't isoing as much. It's more off the catch for them, and they're in a better rhythm. Like because it's tough for them. Like Mikal Bridges, OG, even Josh Hart to a certain extent. Like those are good perimeter defenders, and it's kind of hard when you don't have like a weak defender to attack, and when it's Dyson in the game and Jalen Brunson's guarding CJ McCollum. Like it's easy for the Knicks to help off of Dyson that way. So like to me, I'm like, all right, let's counter this by really keying in on Onyeka and Jalen because I do think there were there were clearly advantages those two had that the Knicks really couldn't account for. So like that's something that I think should help them going forward on offense.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, other things like the Knicks were top blocking a lot on guys in the corner trying to get up to a DHO at the 3-point break. When Mitchell Robinson's in the game, a back cut's not really going to work there. That's just not going to be viable. But when Cat is up the floor with Onyeka and the lane is open, that back cut is there. I didn't really see them try to get to back cuts to punish that top blocking. defensive approach that the Knicks were using. So I thought that there were missed opportunities there as well. Like I said, especially when Cat was at the five and up to four with Onyeka.
And they usually are quickly into that too.
Yes.
Um, I'm sure that'll be on film, and Quinn will be like, "Okay, we can do more of this if they're going to play it this way." Um, on the bench question, I mean, efficiency wise, the number like it's not the offense did kind of slog when the bench was on the floor. A lot like Gabe Vincent's offensive rating as a player, which means when they were on the floor, it was around 90 in this game. I thought Gabe was totally fine, but like he doesn't give you much on offense. Like he just doesn't.
Right.
It's not going to bring that juice to you. Um, it's funny I'm sure Risha will be a topic coming out of this game. Um,
He rebounded like a madman, but he didn't
I
do
was gonna say
really
I
anything
actually
else.
thought Zach. I actually thought Zach was fine. The
Yeah.
one thing he did, Tyler was right. He was very, very clear. Was probably terrified. Not terrified. Nervous. I would
Yeah.
guess.
But
His first shot was a terrible shot. That was a terrible shot. But the next two were totally fine. He just happened to miss them. But they were shots he has to take. Like they were like within 5 feet. He just missed them. Defensively, he was flying around, rebounding wise. I think he led the team in rebounding the first quarter and a half or something like that in
yeah.
the game, which is funny. I also was not surprised that he didn't go back in the game. I thought that was probably going to happen after that stint, and it was fine with me that he didn't go back in the game. Um, I thought Mo was pretty good, honestly. I thought Mo gave you what you could ask him to give you. Other than going 0 for 2 on threes, like hopefully you get one of those to fall next time. I thought he gave you what you can expect. And and also they didn't have to smash the Tony Bradley glass ceiling in this one because Mo was fine. Like it never became an issue. Mitchell Robinson got zero offensive rebounds in 14 minutes. So if that happens again, like there's a lot of stuff under the hood. I'm sure people are going to yell at me when I do this on my podcast later. A lot of stuff under the hood where the Hawks like could be feeling okay. Like they lost this game and it got a little bit out of hand at one point. But like you look at the numbers under the hood, like they did a pretty good job in a lot of different areas. They just happened to not make anything inside the arc for.
Yeah. They lost the
Um,
game on free throw differential, really.
Yeah.
yeah, and
From the
two
box
point. I
score
mean, and 2 point shooting. They had a
2 point
terrible
Yeah.
2 point shooting for like 3 quarters. Basically, they were at one point they were 5 of 20 on non-paint twos. Like they just couldn't. All those like 7 footers, 10 footers that like Jalen and Dyson and those guys take, they just didn't make any of them for like a long period of time in this game, which is going to happen. Those are not great shots, but you think you're going to make more than 20% of them, which is where the Hawks ended up.
Yeah, I mean the Knicks were not awesome offensively. They caught fire in the fourth quarter and got separation, and it was too much for them to overcome. But like the Hawks on their overall field goal was 38 for 87. The Knicks were 38 for 80. So it was 48 to 44%. Three from the 3-point line, the Knicks only took 25, they made 12. The Hawks made 14 of 37. So there's a 10 percentage differential there, but the Hawks were plus six there, but they were minus 13 on free throws because they missed seven. So
I
yeah,
can our guy Bob Rathman was not happy with the free throw disparity. That
yeah.
was Bob's.
It was Cat getting 10 was kind of excessive. And that would be like my one critique of Mo. Like I really
Yeah,
like the look where you've got Dyson Daniels guarding Brunson and Mo on Cat. And then if you need to, you can just switch
you
that.
could switch it. Yeah.
And I thought those switches, like they looked really good on those possessions. There was one where they did exactly that. They had Daniels on Brunson, Mo on Cat. The initial action was, the two-man game with those two. And, they ate up 20 seconds of the shot clock and somebody threw a grenade to Josh Hart. Jalen Johnson falls for a pump fake with 3 on the shot clock and they end up getting a layup out of it. Like,
Tyler's
but
face
the
right now.
defense on that possession was so tight. It was really disappointing to see that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Oh,
you did great for 20 seconds and then one
yeah.
overreaction to a pump fake gives the possession all the way back to the other team.
And
It's
it's really a mental mistake too. Just it's
Yeah.
yeah.
just know your personnel, know the clock is just
Well, you mentioned earlier that the switching process that reminds me of something I know Glenn was saying early in the game, and he's 100% right. First like 7 minutes, they give up switches so easily on Brunson, and once they stopped doing that, they rained Brunson, and Brunson couldn't feel his face for 7 minutes. He had like 17 points or whatever it was. And if you watch them back, and I already have watched them back, like I think maybe one was against Dyson, I think maybe zero. It was literally like they were all on like Yeah, he's just shooting over McCollum. Like, oh yeah, he's going to be able to do that. If you can get a switch and he can attack McCollum, like he's going to do that. So I kept seeing people saying that Dyson couldn't contain Brunson. I'm like, I don't know what you guys were watching. He wasn't scoring.
I
He wasn't
know.
scoring on Dyson at all. He scored on
They
everybody
didn't
else.
score on Dyson.
I,
I don't think he scored on at all. At all.
I
So
do think one adjustment I would try to do is because Mo looked very playable, I would try to get his minutes, some of them against Cat,
Yes.
and try to have Onyeka in the game when it's Mitchell Robinson.
They did it in the first
Because
half on purpose.
yeah, but you could
It felt
just think
like.
that there's more to take there.
Yeah, no,
You want to get
I
Mitchell
was
Robinson
encouraged.
out of the paint with Okongwu shooting. You want his Okongwu's strength and the defensive right rebounding. And honestly, Mose looks very playable. He's not going to be great for your offense, but the heavy bench lineups that feels like they need to get broken up a little bit. And I just think in terms of like where does your personnel fit? I think Mo with Cat and Onyeka with
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson feels a little bit more like a natural feel to me.
yeah.
Bring Mo in sooner in the first quarter is probably.
Yeah.
It felt like they were going to do that in the first. I mean, they kind of did it, and then I think they knew they were going to do Haka in the second half, so they didn't intentionally do it that time because they I guess they were going to plan on having Mo foul him, which was we already discussed. But
And
in the first half, it felt like there was an actual plan to do exactly what you just said. Like there was one quick stint when it wasn't that, but it was a lot of like when Mo was in the game. I want to say the first like 80% of his first half minutes were against Towns, not against
Okay.
Robinson. Um, so I'm assuming they're and look, they know. I'm sure they don't want Mo against Robinson, like just intuitively. It doesn't make.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why they signed Tony Bradley in the first place. Is because they don't want that to happen. I don't think so. But I'm with
Yeah, I
you. By
mean,
the way,
to me,
I have a number: 95 defensive rating with Mo on the court.
Mhm.
yeah, he's
95.
good. He held up getting switched on to Brunson too. He really didn't have an issue with that, right? So he didn't foul him. He kept his hands clean. He kept his hands back. He didn't put his hands out in front of him and let Brunson get those easy fouls. I thought the refs let Brunson like shove his defender off of him like basically the whole game and didn't call it. But all you can do is recognize they're gonna let him do that, so I can't get all worked up about it. I could be physical back with him. But that, again, young teams, you know, learning playoff whistles different. It's gonna be different game to game and crew to crew in that sense. I also thought it was weird that the broadcast was acting like the Hawks had a million turnovers. They had 12 turnovers, and the Knicks had like they're like too many live ball turnovers. I'm like,
Yeah, it was a very low bit turnover game in general. I wonder if they were just like selective memory. I had that same observation. I was kind of confused. I mean, the Hawks were. I think the 1 point Stan did make that it's right that the Hawks need to win the turnover battle in this series,
yeah,
and they didn't. But also, they didn't get killed there. Like it wasn't like they were giving the ball away
yeah,
all the
there
time.
were
So
points off turnovers. They were -3, so it was a fairly neutral
yeah,
result in
But they
that
can't
regard.
lose that.
No,
yeah, they can.
that's how
They
they
got to
win.
win that.
That's
Well,
absolutely how they win. That's like priority number one is using your defense to create offense, not letting the Knicks get matched up in transition, recognizing the mismatch and going to it right away. That's what they didn't do enough of that today at all. I mean, they only had 13 fast break points.
I was gonna say
That's not to their standard.
fast break
Yeah.
points are kind of a flawed stat, but if they lose that by 9, they're not going to have a lot of success.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, I'll say I felt like Onyeka played harder than anybody on the Hawks did today. I thought he worked his butt off the
He was great.
whole game. Like,
yep.
and people are mad about his rebound numbers, but he had to deal with like one of the best rebounders in the league and
There's a
maybe
reason
the
Mitchell
he,
all-star
Robinson
in
he
got
rebound.
0
hold
Yeah.
up. He,
on
he
the
he he
offensive
didn't deal
glass.
with him. He absolutely dominated Mitchell Robinson. I want
Yes,
to
he did.
like people need to understand. Onyeka was dominating Mitchell Robinson on both ends of the floor. And the best thing he did was he didn't allow Mitchell Robinson to do anything with the ball in his hands. If he had the ball out in front, he was all over his dribble. He was all over his handle. He was pressuring up the floor, forcing Mitchell Robinson to pick the ball up sooner and force the. And now he's like 30 feet from the rim, a complete non-entity. So like I thought Okongwu was great. Like if Okongwu's gonna play like this, like I do think the Hawks have a good chance. Like now it's on the rest of the guys to pick up their effort level. I thought Dyson effort level. I mean his effort level was always fantastic.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
great. He was great as well at all everything except offensively. I
Finishing.
did feel like he needed to take better. He needed to find more opportunities to score, but when he did look to score, he needed to be smarter about how he was doing it.
Yeah.
because I do think he took some bad shots that turned into transition points on the other end that really hurt them.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to ever like put people in different categories, whether they're a casual watcher just trying to enjoy the game or watch the game from a more technical standpoint. But just how hard he works as a screener, like is insane. Like he's so willing to sacrifice his body to get CJ some space, get Jalen some space, get the kill some space, all the above. And people, I just think people don't realize the value of that, right? So he plays really, really hard too.
Maybe that is an adjustment. Just Quinn just needs to play Dyson a little bit more than what he did, particularly in the first half. I think
Were
Yeah,
Brad
they
it
Brad
trying?
was
Were they
he didn't play
trying
that.
to keep Dyson away from Mitchell Robinson? Were they trying to like use Dyson when Cat was in the game?
But
maybe
I
maybe
think
I had
I
that
think
thought.
that's a mistake. Like if Mitchell's going to guard Dyson, we can get these DHO actions to get open 3 point if Mitchell's going to play drops. So I think that's a tactical mistake. So I do think
Yeah.
Dyson should have and also flat out the Hawks are at their best when Dyson's in the game. He's got to play as much as anybody.
Yeah, I just thought it was a little. I don't want to make a huge deal of it in game one, but yeah, I think he played 15 minutes in the first half, which isn't like crazy low, but in a playoff game, like I think him and Kuminga had almost the same minutes in the first half, and I was like, that shouldn't happen. Like, there's no reason for that. Well, it'd be one thing if Kuminga was just like cooking, but that wasn't happening. Like he
It was
didn't kill
not.
them or anything, but it wasn't like he had a great first half either. So, just a little strange. I think it was just one sub that just didn't happen. Like Dyson just sat on the bench for like 3 minutes too long. Just no big deal, but just little things stack up.
Yeah, connecting the dots there is probably Quinn knowing he's going to cut the rotation down to seven, about seven in the second half, and so try to
Yeah.
rest some in the first half to have more juice at the end of the game. That's probably how the plan unfolded, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's fine too that Zach didn't play in the second half. I think that was fine, and trying to just go basically to seven. So they used Mo and Vincent and Kuminga. So I guess it was eight in the
Yeah,
second half,
they played
technically.
eight, but it was, it's a very normal playoff. I mean, a lot of times playoff rotation, like you might go to nine in the first half, and usually somebody's not playing in the second half.
Yeah.
Zach was jumpy. They saw that, no issue. I will be interested to see if Zach plays on Monday. We'll
Yeah,
see.
but I mean, going back to using those fouls, that was confusing to me because like put Buddy in the game, and when Mitchell goes to the free throw
No,
line, you can sub
honestly,
him.
Buddy or Kispert should have
Yeah,
been in. Like
yeah,
I
that's
don't
Yeah,
true.
like
because after the
why
first free
is
throw, you can sub them back out. You can put the
right
legit offensive player back on the floor, and
why
you can
why is
navigate
Gabe
it that way.
why is Gabe Vincent in if you're Haka? That doesn't make and he was in. I was like that doesn't make sense unless he's the one fouling and he wasn't. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
little things.
I like that. That's a nice little observation to end on. I appreciate all of you joining us, especially our and one. And good night, Bob.
Good night,
But,
Bob.
but
Thanks, guys. Good.